Hello, my name's Nelsonator, and I'm here with my friend.
I'm Parish Torch.
And this is Let's Play Mega Man Battle Network 6, Cybeast Gregar. Last time, we just kind of did essentially a podcast where we just kind of talked to each other while beating up all the heel navies hanging out in the real world. Now we're going to take a look at the cyber world, because they're hanging out here too. In addition to the cyber world, there's also a new area that unlocked after we beat the final boss. And we're going to go there before the end of the update and just sort of look around and see what we can find there. Also, we'll find a lot of regular navies just sort of beat up and laying on the ground that have been taken out by the heel navies here going around. So we're just going to kind of do a sweep and review everything. Learn a route in case you're running around looking for gold mystery data for those 10 bug for. I still can't believe I found 2 of them over the course of this LP. What the heck? Oh. But yeah, the nice thing about, well, the hard thing about doing it over the internet is that you don't get automatically healed after every battle. But the good thing is you don't have the cutscene where it's like, oh no, the copy bot, it's been damaged. So you'll just chug a full energy every once in a while as you keep going through like these difficult encounters. But part of the problem with this, and part of the reason why we're essentially podcasting this, is a lot of the encounters are repeated. We've seen that fishing encounter a couple of times. So, yeah. Here are the heel navies. They're out on the internet. I'm going to beat them up, and we'll do something else once they're all beat up. Yay!
There we go.
Yeah. Do you remember this part of the game that much?
I don't know. I know that there was some post-game content that I did. I don't know if I made it a priority to go around and absolutely clear out all of the heel navies, but I do remember certainly taking care of a lot of them.
Yeah, the fact that there's zero reward for it makes it feel really pointless, especially because you beat them up and then you'll just like run around the internet. Oh, I had to resist Giga Cannon. But you'll run around the internet and you'll see like people just laying on the ground just like, oh no, I got beat up, and you'll try and think just like, where was the heel navy that did this to you? What were they like? Like, you'll just wander past those guys, and you'll just be like, alright, I really want to just lay out on the floor too. Have a nice day. It's just so strange. It's also interesting to come back after all this time and just be like, wow, I can take care of you guys at a single chip. Good job.
Yeah. That is one of the things that I especially like about this game. People make fun of the fact that certain areas of the net are easier or harder than others because it's structured by game progression. And sure, it's certainly easy to make those jokes like, why are all the viruses in AC/DC Town harder? Oh, it's because land moved away and all the tough viruses moved in.
Yeah.
But even without any sort of in-universe justification like that, I totally would have been fine with them doing it this way, just as you mentioned, for that feeling of getting to come back and show how much your power is actually increased.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of games that try and scale everything relative to player level or game progression are kind of doing their fans a disservice by depriving you of that moment.
Yeah, it really depends on the game, because like Battle Network 4, where you end up looping and it ends up increasing the strength of all the viruses on the internet and in dungeons, it's really hard to get that feeling of strength unless you jack into like the isolated cyber worlds scattered throughout the world. Like, oh, I'm going to jack into my doghouse. So you sit down, you jack into your doghouse, and then you discover, wow, everything's still a level 1 virus. I can completely clean the clock with them. But then the other fun thing about that game is like realizing power far too early. Just like, oh, I made a folder full of life sword. Let's see what happens.
Right. Yeah, and then you get into the issue of balancing avatar strength with player strength / skill.
And the problem is, it's in many ways you really want to do that. By the way, there are no heel navies in the underground here, so we're just gonna sort of sweep it to sort of show like the route of wandering through here to find mystery data. But like, I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. What was it you just said?
Avatar strength versus player strength.
Yeah. Like, Battle Network 4, you also owe it to yourself to sort of do that thing and achieve power early, because if you wander into the wrong corner of the internet, you'll end up with a fight with like the second version of a Navi, and the problem with doing that is they go from like let's say Gutsman. Gutsman shows up in your first tournament, he only has like 400 or 500 HP. Well, you go out and fight him on the net, he'll have maybe 1,000. And then once you beat him, like while he's standing around on the internet, he'll be free roamed, added to the encounter pool, and he'll be up at nearly 2,000 HP and equivalent damage for when you're at the end of your third playthrough. Like, if you don't sort of cheat the system a little bit, you're running scared through every portion of the internet, just wondering, oh, when am I going to get jump? When am I going to get got? You know? It's one of the problems with that slowly scaling things up when things just break past the expected difficulty and are much harder than expected.
Yeah. I've certainly seen a number of instances where games think that it's something where you have to pick a side. Like, are we going to have, avatar strength as the dominant, factor, or is it going to be player strength or skill or ability at the game as the dominant factor? And so there are some games where your character has very little growth and it's all about getting good at the game. But then there are definitely times where, the game goes too far the other way and you can just mash A the entire time, and eventually by the end of the game, your character is super overpowered and nothing is a challenge.
Yeah.
Even without putting any thought into it.
Yeah, because, like, part of the problem with Battle Network 4 also is, like, as the game goes on, it tries to scale by throwing harder viruses at you, but they can't throw at you, like, the same sort of viruses that have been going, so they came up with this new tier where it's like, well, it's a level 1 met, but then it's a level 1 met that's extended or extra, super powerful, when it's just a met that has 70 HP and it hides under its shell. And the other problem with a game like Mega Man, where it's a loot-based game, where you sort of need the lower tiers of chips for the collection purposes, if they just obsolete all the way past it, it's hard to complete your library. It's hard to go back and do program advances. Like, Battle Network 4 has a lot of problems by it just immediately scaling up, where you have to take a stop at the end of any playthrough, so you go and make sure you get all the chips from all the viruses you need to do all the program advances, so you don't lock yourself into hours of grinding in some random place on the internet to be able to 100% the game. And that's not exactly fun.
Yeah.
And yet I will still sit here and defend Battle Network 4 for some reason. I have no idea why.
I mean, it's certainly unique. A lot of people complain that their favorite games don't have enough content to them. And I guess I shouldn't say people complain that, games do that. You don't hear it vocalized nearly as much, but the fact that, DLC and season passes and that whole model exists shows that in a lot of cases, if people like a game, they want more of the game. And, in that case, are willing to even pay for it. So the fact that Battle Network 4 had it where it's built into the game basically to have, you play through the same game, it is the same mechanics, but then you get to have more content in that same game that took them relatively little to develop, extra content for.
I think Skyrim or Oblivion were contemporary to the Battle Network games. I think it was Oblivion. And, like, one of the things with Oblivion was, we're going to put out Radiant Quests. It's like you have infinite quests in your game. The game is going to automatically determine, like, here's a quest it can throw at you. You gotta go do the thing and get the thing. Like, trying to extend playtime via machine contrivance.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Battle Network 4, the machine contrivance is you won't see all the content unless you play through it multiple times, and that, in some ways, is good but also bad because it's like, oh, people will want to sit down and play another game. By the way, there's the rare piranha. Hi. Um, by the way, people
Hooray!
will want to sit down and replay the game, but at the same time, like, does anybody want to sit down and replay 4 because of the other mistakes and problems inherent with its design?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, any of the games where, like, power ups you get and drops you can get from things as a random factor are, like, they can change how you end up playing through the game if you're just, like, picking it up to pick it up and go, as opposed to, like, I'm trying to break the game. Here's exactly how I'm breaking it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because, like, I tried to pick up Star Ocean 2 on the PSP, and I was talking with somebody who knows the game a lot, and I was like showing off my file or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, you got the perfect startup. Here's exactly the things you need to do to try and break the game by getting this, like, it's like the third most powerful sword in the game, but you're gonna get it way too early. Here's how you can try and do this." And I'm like, okay, I at least want to try this for a little bit, and it just sort of like it's kind of a bad way to play the game, you know? I didn't enjoy doing it at all, but I tried. And
Yeah.
like the sort of random factor on being able to achieve too much power early in some ways is really fun, but in some ways, like, if it doesn't quite work when you're trying to exploit the way it can happen, it's not too fun. It's also interesting to see here, like, oh, like, let's just go take a look at everything that we missed from the last time I was running around the internet. Mr. Director, is blood okay? Like, one of the things I don't know is, like, if those last two messages came up after you fought the fight. Oh, by the way, hi, Dive Man, level 2. Let's clown on a guy that we're way stronger than. But, like, I imagine, like, Gregar just showed up, Mick got thrown in jail or picked up by, like, the copy bots before he and everyone broke out, and he just, like, furiously typing an email, just like, is the penguin okay? Is the penguin okay? Yeah.
That's why he's at the aquarium.
Yeah,
He got an answer on the BBS, and so he decided, I gotta go over there right away,
yeah, like,
especially if admission's free.
he hops on the train like right as he gets a reply from the aquarium director, and he's just like, I'm going. I like he already made the decision whether he's going to go or not. Look at me just throwing out all these chips, just like, maybe one of these will hit him. No? Well,
I'm
finally.
kind of surprised that you had the sword there.
I One of the
You
things
even
I'll do,
selected the
one of the things
sword.
that I've been conditioned to do from the previous Battle Network games is, like, if a chip isn't useful, you still pick it anyway so you can get it out of the way and get anything else in its place.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
Especially in, like, Battle Networks 2 and 3, where the next style you got was incumbent by how you fought, and the way you
Mm.
got custom style was picking 5 chips at the start of every battle and using chips within battle. So throwing out a ton of garbage chips was a good way to guarantee that you would have, in my opinion, the best style in the game. In my
Yeah.
opinion, heavy air quotes on that, because somebody's going to show up with like a weird shield style build in Battle Network 2 that'll completely chump whatever boss it is you gotta fight, or it's Battle Network 3 and you can sort of do whatever you want in that game. But I really like custom style and just starting a battle with 7 chips in Battle Network 2 or 10 chips in Battle Network 3. Or,
Yeah, I know we've talked about it before, but I still miss Styles.
yeah. I mean, the cross system is a good substitute for it, especially because you're able to, like, uh, customize it in the middle of a battle, as opposed to, I keep missing the slash cross. I'm so, you know, if I just took a step back, there we go. I finally figured it out. Um, but being able to slap on a cross at the start of any battle to, like, essentially choose whatever style it is that you need, like, this is, in my opinion, the best way that they've ever done things. In the end, the only thing that you can trust is your own power. I think I've gone a bit too far. He says, as he's
Words.
destroyed 3 evil navvies here. Good job, Mr. Prague. Good job, Mr. Prague. I
Kind of
will.
reminds me of, I know this is a little bit of a non sequitur, but someone was commenting on the difference between the Church of Satan versus the Satanic Temple. And even, both of those groups are not what you'd expect about like literally worshiping the devil and sacrificing babies and whatever. But the Church of Satan, from what I remember, having to look this up and Google it a couple weeks ago to compare it, um, they have a bunch of tenets that are like, yeah, the individual is all that matters, and like no one can abridge your right to do what you want. Like in their like main 8 tenets or whatever, one of them was like, if you are a guest in someone else's home, you must be deferential and treat them with respect. You're like, okay, that's, I
That's
guess, not a
fine.
bad rule. And then like two down from that is like, if a guest is rude or disrespects you in your home, utterly destroy them. Like, what?
The entire thing is like based on like an inverse of Christianity or an anti-Christianity shit post, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like,
And the description that they ultimately gave for it, which I think actually sums it up really well, is like, Ayn Rand, but with slightly more ritual and rite. Like, yeah, that does sound like Ayn Rand's philosophy.
by the way, we found the Quaker virus. Huzzah, raw Quaker. I like how that guy is like the raw Quaker is like that red and black thing, and it's just like, all right, there he is.
Hmm. I would have liked to see if the higher tier Quakers, when they landed, would kind of stun you for a second, not give you the stun condition like when hit with an electrical attack or whatever, but just make it so you can't move. So you really have to be prepared to counterattack them or just not be in the same row when they land if you're not prepared for the attack.
I'm pretty sure they still do. I also like how I talked to that guy. There's no Navi around that beat him up. Because I haven't been through here before, but there's nobody here who beat him up. So the guy beat him up, wandered over to the Mr. Prague, and then the Mr. Prague is just like, we can come to an understanding. And he's like, yeah, we've come to an understanding. Right after I caved in this other Navi skull.
Mm-hmm.
It. Game's weird. Game's weird. Also, it's like I'm pretty sure that the rare Quaker also like stuns you when you hit the ground, but because I had a barrier up, because fast barrier, pretty good. Um, I'm pretty sure that kept me from seeing the effect of the stun. So
Yeah, that could probably be it.
also
Yeah, I was just looking at it and I thought this
that's
rare
Kikakin.
Quaker doesn't seem as difficult as what I'm thinking in my head. I
Yeah,
wish it was.
because immediately you're just like, oh, he's gonna stun you, and then he's just gonna be hanging out in the air, and you're gonna have zero time when he lands before he stuns you, and then you're not going to be able to move into his row to attack him afterwards. Hey, subtip merchant, I need all the untraps. I need to replenish the one I used at the start of all of this. Anyway, let's check the BBS. Nope, nobody else. Yai's not gonna come over here and post just because something else is going on. Ah,
Yeah, I think that would have been a nice touch just to have a post from Yai saying like, everyone in Greentown, come to the Judge Tree building. It's safer there.
by the way, here's the riot police. They beat up a guy. Good job. I think I came over here just in case, like, yeah, I don't know if a guy's there. And then, no, I don't turn around and immediately go back because I didn't hit quite the right space. Oh well. That would have been funny. To just,
Happens a lot with that specific warp.
yeah, to just turn around immediately and just be like, okay, but did I see anybody that's hiding out at the end over there? Because, like, somebody was over there for one of the quests that we checked, you know? And then I never ended up over here. I'm just like, is there anybody over here? Aha! Oh.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh. Oh. It's not who I was expecting at all. Well, I'm glad
So
Mr. Humor.
any second now, you're gonna pause.
Any second now. Any second now.
Uh,
Why did pick in
Yeah,
the back row to start firing the machine gun?
I was confused about that as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's also very weird picking up humor essentially as a post game program.
Yeah, like, I might have even gotten Chivalry and Poem by this time. Wait, is Chivalry even in this game, or is it just Poem?
I don't remember Chivalry. I do remember Poem.
Chivalry was in 5, and, like, it's not even funny. It tries to turn Mega Man into, like, a macho tough guy, which he really isn't. But it's really funny to see him, like, sort of try. But the biggest problem is the writers were not up to the task of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
God, why did I choose? Okay, I guess I see why I chose the bubble. Because I can just do that, and that's a double delete. But I still see that, and I'm like, man, shouldn't I just pick the Mega Cannon so I could just immediately remove the Honey Bomber? Like,
Too easy.
it's weird that I think this way, but it is the way I think about it. And then I sit here, think for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I can get all the Mets all at once if I blast them with the spreader. But then the problem with blasting them with the spreader is I can counter hit one of them, but then I don't counter hit the corn. And I just, the dumb calculations that go through my mind of how to stylishly do this the best. I'm sitting here months after I've recorded this, just like essentially backseat quarterbacking myself playing this game. It's why do I do this to myself? By the way, Killer Cross. Have I talked about my undying love and affection of Killer Cross yet? I love it. It's really good.
Yeah, more money. That's what we need.
More money. I need so much. Okay, we joke about that, but it's gonna be a problem. I'm pretty sure. I forget why it's going to end up being a problem, but I'm pretty sure I end up blowing through all of the rest of my money. I completely forget why, but I'm pretty sure I do. Also, look, it's fire. If I had just any fire chip at all, like here's a fire hit, I could just wipe this encounter. But no, we're gonna go big. Here's Heat Man.
Big and loud.
Yeah, I love how happy Heat Man always looks in this game. Like, his face always looks like he's got this big smile on. He's so happy to be here, burninating the countryside. Burninating the countryside, burninating. I don't remember enough of Trogdor.
Yeah, I don't remember the middle lyrics either. I want to say burninating all the houses. And then it's something like burninating all the people. I remember the very end of it is thatch roof cottages. Yeah, definitely been years since I've heard the Trogdor song.
Yeah, I just vaguely remember the memes, and vaguely remembering the memes is not nearly enough for that masterpiece of fiction of meme work that is Trogdor.
Did you see that they had a Kickstarter for a board game?
I remember seeing Homestar Runner in the news recently, but I think it was because Fangamer had like merch or something like that.
But yeah, they put out a board game of Trogdor where I believe it's an asymmetric game where one person plays as Trogdor and tries to go around burninating the countryside, and the other person has to go around putting out all the fires and try to stop Trogdor.
Yeah.
But other than hearing that it was an announcement, I did not do a ton of looking into it. Mostly just, that's neat. I already have a ton of board games that I haven't got a chance to play recently because of the current world situation, so I don't need to buy one more, but that's neat. So
anyway.
That's when the penguin says, no soap, radio.
Yeah, there was a cut in there, and I'm going to try my best to cut around that, but yay, editing! Yeah. Things happen in life that are outside of your control before you sit down to do things. So,
That's the motto of 2020. Things happen in life that are outside your control.
Yep. I like how this guy is hanging out in like the furthest place he could be from any like remotely easily accessible area, and he's just like, "Here I am." Ah, what
Yeah,
a
and there's
jerk.
not a ton of people there, so there's no one else that he's really threatening or is in danger from him, like all the navies who are all over seaside kind of thing.
Yeah, he just chose to stand next to this big tree in the middle of nowhere, just loving that tree. Like, I hype considering how dumb these guys are, considering they just wander out into the internet and just stand around. Well, then again, standing around might be a good thing because it just means that like anytime anybody comes up to them, they just go and beat them up. Like they're you'd expect there to be like any sort of warding system to any of the other guys to like come from their patrol routes or whatever and just converge on whoever's causing problems. But they just stand around and get beat up and that's it. Like you can imagine why they do that for like scouting and reconnaissance, but then the fact that nothing happens when you go and beat them up, like, sort of takes the teeth out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that that one is next to a secret undernet entrance,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that guy just popped out from the undernet and just said, "Well, I did what I was asked to do, invade the regular net, and now I'm, 4 steps away from going back home when the workday's over."
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that was his thought process.
Well, then
Just
again,
on as short a commute as possible.
we'll see later why I think that theory is not quite correct. But I think he just wandered up over there without knowing the connection with the tree, and he's just hanging out there, just standing on top of the little hill next to the tree, just like, oh yeah, this sure is great. I enjoy this so much.
And as with any kind of NPC in a video game, there has to be something to be said for the fact that they're constantly standing there for the rest of time.
Yep.
You never see them like abandon their post and go through, their workday schedule unless it's a game that very clearly goes through a day
Ah,
night
yes,
cycle.
the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, my favorite game, where like the lady who's like the second in command of one of the big cities, like has her bed set in the wrong city, so in the middle of the day she'll just start wandering out to go home to go to sleep and just wander through a field. And then the time will come up when she has to wake up again and she'll wander back out of that field to go stand next to her Jarl or whatever it is. Or like there's some alchemy house in one of the towns where there's 9 beds but 10 people. So one of the guys will just stand around and stare at the people while they're sleeping because he doesn't have a bed to sleep in.
I seem to remember someone doing something similar to that in The Sims. You're talking about the excessively long, trek over to her bed. Someone made a massive hedge maze that just, was a giant spiral around their house. And so every morning, their sim would notice, like, oh, it's time to go to work. And so they'd run to, grab a taxi or get picked up by a coworker, however it works in the game. And so they'd be running around their house for hours. And right about as they're getting to the end of the hedge maze, the workday ends. So then they walk all the way back home, but it takes them so long to get back there that then the workday starts and they start running around the other way again.
The Sisyphean torment. Oh
Uh-huh.
god, I saw an amazing meme about that yesterday, but I forget what it was. It was Sisyphean torment for children. Oh, this is not the proper thing that I should be doing, but I'm going to go look it up because I reposted it somewhere. But just
While you're looking that up, I would also recommend that you or anyone who sees this go and check out a reading of Sims patch notes. The patch notes for the Sims games are always amazing. People talk about how like people no longer have to finish the activity that they're going through, if they're set on fire, unless it is a high school and they are graduating.
why a high school and graduating?
Like something about abandoning the graduation protocol midway through if someone gets set on fire by a meteor storm apparently was too much of a hassle, so they're like, you know what, that's the one thing we're not going to change. Like if anyone else gets set on fire, they'll stop what they're doing and put themselves out first. But if someone through graduation and they get set on fire, like, well, sorry, you got to graduate before you can put yourself out. That's just how it goes. Um,
I
there's also patch notes like Sims can no longer try for baby with Grim Reaper.
uh that's that's a good one.
Good games.
Anyway, I'm not finding what I'm looking for. We're going back to
I
the
was gonna
real
say you
stuff.
could try using the search function.
No, it's not going to show up there because it was an image, so it's not going to show up in that. But it was some meme about like some children's fairy tale being Sisyphus but for children, and I just forget what it is. I can't remember if it's green eggs and ham was Sisyphus but for children because he just keeps saying I do not like green eggs and ham, and then eventually is forced to eat it. Where like they eventually resolve the dispute. I just can't remember. By the way, one of the other things that's weird that like I know to be true, wind attacks are supposed to be able to blow out the candles, but Tengu Man doesn't do that. Weird. I'm pretty sure he's even tagged as a wind element. What's up with that, Tengu Man? Why are you sleeping on your duty? Or maybe it's just stuff like Airshot and Wind Rack that do it.
Maybe.
Also, I look here at just like, oh, let's buy some of the things we need for some of the quests later on, and immediately run out of bug frags.
Well,
Good design. Anyway, I love how I pick all of those chips when all I need is the Spreader 3. Like, man, Killer Cross is really good. Just look at that. And, like, one of the weird things about Killer Cross is there are points in the game where it's really good, and then there are points in the game where it doesn't do anything. Like, it's really good here in Skytown, it's really good in the early Undernet areas, and then just sort of, like, drops off because HP isn't the proper value for it. And then you get into the secret area, and then you see a lot more enemies with, like, oh, our maximum HP is 240, and Killer Cross is just like,
sharpened scythe with murderous intent.
Oh, hi,
Oh,
Element
hello
Man.
there.
Hello, Giga Cannon in the opening draw. This will not be difficult. But yeah, Element Man is, again, like I've said previously, one of the easier navies because of how easy he is to just sort of stun lock. You just let him turn into his grass type, and then you just hit him with the fire. And then whenever he's going to transform again, you just hit him before he can. And then you just stun lock him. Like that. He's just stuck. Oops. Let's just take the fire hit. That'll instantly kill him. Hell yeah. Bump. Yeah. The other interesting thing about Element Man is, like, he's got... Oh, come on. You can't even give me, like, Element Man EX for getting an S rank on the EX? Come on.
Nope.
Anyway, let's say hello to the coffee guy. You can get something by pestering the coffee people enough, but it seems like that's another thing that'll take some time, and I'm gonna do it later. Yeah, coffee guy, he's pretty great. The big win, I don't even remember what this coffee guy has, but the coffee guy in AC/DC Town has Bug Stop, which is an amazing Navi customizer program, and I really want it. I really want it to take like my Navi customizers to the next level and just completely rip this game in half. But alas, I am withholding so that I can show off other things first. Like, it was really interesting back in the day to be on GameFAQs when you're like a younger kid and just see like the weird Navi customizer setups that people put together for their competitive folders and stuff, even though like there's no reason for you to ever play competitive. I have no idea how any of these people tested any of these builds back in the day. But yeah, also, let's demonstrate what Charge Cross can do. Wow! We slowly charge up our damage and deal more. I could have just been Heat Cross and instantly handled it. Yay! Charge Cross!
I do like watching speedruns for much the same purpose, as you said. You know, even if you're not going to be a competitive player and it's not directly relevant to you in that regard, it is very interesting seeing a true master at work and, you know, all the ways that they will break or abuse mechanics that you're probably familiar with, the basic functions of, but did not think to combine them in such a way, or did not think about exactly how the game's programming causes a couple of things to interact, stuff like that.
Like the Ocarina of Time any percents now, where they're like 2 minutes long, and they do this weird, long, extended memory glitch to eventually just trigger the ending, and it's just like, we're done. 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, I'm just messing around with my menus for 2 minutes, and then suddenly, oh, I loaded the cutscene for the end of the game. That means I beat it. Yeah.
Yeah, just any of the weird things you can do with glitches. Like, I still need to sit down and get a Mew out of the Virtual Console Pokemon Red by doing arbitrary code execution to set it to be just the right Mew. But yeah.
You mean Nugget Bridge?
Well, the problem is, to transfer a Mew out of the Virtual Console Red and Blue games for the 3DS, what you need to do is it needs to have a very specific original trainer and a really specific ID tag. So, you can set yourself to be whatever trainer name, but having the exact ID is kind of difficult. So you do arbitrary code execution by acquiring the glitch item 8F, and then you set up your party in a very specific way and your bag in a very specific way that it will execute the code in the proper way to change the Mew's original trainer and ID number so that it's safe to pass through Pokemon Bank into Pokemon Home.
Why does it need to be so specific to be able to transfer like that?
Because there was just one. And Mew is hard-coded to import into Pokemon Bank from the Virtual Console games with a very specific OT and a very specific trainer ID. That's it.
Mm.
That specific combination is the only way you get Mew out. Also, hello, Rare Big Hat. And I guess I missed talking to the guys hanging out in front of the Undernet, but the thing that happens is the guys in red are Undernet denizens, and the guys in black are the Wily Navies, and they're just like, as if we let those Wily idiots in here. So, that's what I meant when I said earlier, like, oh, maybe he's just gonna clock out and just go back home by hopping back into the Undernet. No, these guys aren't from the Undernet, considering that Undernet denizens don't consider them, like, from here. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting what the game decides to sort of do here. I also had the decision of, like, I should just show off the Bubble Star thing, and I was just like, no, I should do the other thing. I don't know. It's weird to see me, like, go back and pick different things, especially when I'm sitting here like, well, I could have just hit him with the Bubble Star and then the Machine Gun because they're right to cursor type.
Yeah. 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
That's a saying I have no idea where that came from. Like,
yeah.
Where did that saying come from?
I mean, I can definitely understand the intent behind it, the same way that people say, tomato, tomato. Just the two different ways to say the same thing. It makes sense either way.
The roads hell only open to those with 100 standard chips and the beast seal. By the way, here's an email. You got Big Hook H. This is a Giga Chip. Is this my first Giga Chip? It might be. It's not going in my folder. But Big Hook H is a reference to the final boss. Oh no, it's my second because I actually did buy the Bug Rise Sword. Right. That awful, useless chip that I hate. Big Hook is a reference to the final boss of Battle Number 4, where it had an attack that is essentially the Big Hook battle chip. I also like how I look down and I'm like, maybe I should put this chip in the folder just so that I can show off what it does. I like how I had that thought, and then I'm just sort of immediately like, here lies Dive Man. Also, hey, look at this encounter and how much it's not messing around. Like, hey, look at that casual virus over there with 300 HP. Look at that other one with 250. Like, sure, there's a Metar 3 in here as a joke, but yet, these guys are not messing around. Oh, by the way, good job. Vanilla level Navi chip. Just trivializing this encounter. Good job, Tengu
Hmm.
Man. Also, I think this is part of the reason why I run out of money. Just like, yep, there goes all that, and I'm about to buy another Giga chip, and I have 5,000 bucks.
There it is.
And then I'm like, oh, well, I don't have any of those chips. I should buy one for the library. Oh, I don't have enough money for that. Oh, well, at least I'm up at 940 maximum HP now.
Yep, HP memory is definitely a pain in the butt.
Also, man, look at this encounter here. Like, they've got, I think that's the tier 3 version of the mech. They've got, like, the tier 3 version of the lightning rod dude. And I think that's tier 3 of the dragon when the dragon goes up to tier 4. Like, this is a rough encounter. Look at it. Well, we looked at it. Problem solved. It's the encounters here are absolutely rough, but after getting to this point in the game, you can handle them. Also, like, oh yeah, the bat key totally handled that, and I'm like,
The bat key.
the bat key. Remember the bat key when we beat base in like way back when it was way too early in the game to do that? Right when we were about to go fight Judge Man. That's when you get the bat key. In the like version in the game, there was in the Chinese, not the Chinese, in the original Japanese version of the game, the bat key unlocked the immortal area, which was like the step between the end of the game and the graveyard here. But in here, you beat base, you get the bat key, and then you just sort of like unlock attack max with it, a Navi customizer program. That's it. I also like how I just throw on Heat Cross there because I'm like, I know the dragon's gonna move really quick. I need to be careful about how I do this. And I just let him move to wait for the tank to advance. Thank you, Giga Cannon 3.
Yeah, when I saw you look at selecting the element trap, like, what are you doing? Come on, Giga Cannon.
This door can only be opened by the mark of S. I need to complete the standard library.
No, what you need to do is get back to the expo site.
You know what? You're right. Have a nice day, everybody.
See ya.